we're live.
And live from Mumbai, Brussels, and Mechelen, it's ZN Live. Today, we are very excited to have an old friend on the show, which is Clo Willaerts. Clo has actually, we've known each other for a long time. She is an author, a speaker, a consultant, a teacher, and we taught together at Odyssey. So that's been a fantastic experience. She has a great newsletter called Chaos and Amazement, which is a fantastic title. And she's actually recently done an updated version of her book, Digital Marketing Like a Pro. And I think that's the perfect way to start this conversation, which is, why did you feel the need to update your book? And what are the main things that you changed in your book?
Well, the embarrassing thing was that in the original version, the black and white version, I still mentioned Google Plus, which no longer exists. And I also mentioned a promising new app called Musical.ly, which was later changed into TikTok. So Google Plus was still being mentioned and TikTok was not yet being mentioned in the book. So it really needed an update. Plus, I spent quite a lot of pages on the importance of developing mobile apps and getting your app in the app stores and promoting it. And I think from a marketer's point of view, because the target audience of these handbooks is marketing professionals and marketing students, I had a feeling that creating your own app was becoming less and less important. Ever since then, because it's a great business model, of course, to teach at colleges and universities and then force your students to buy your handbook. I published another one actually called Content Marketing Like a Pro. And I wrote that exactly 1 year ago, ChatGPT was launched. Remember that? So it was on the 30th of November. And for me, this was a sign of the technological singularity. It was the last time my jaw dropped like that was when a guy called Steve Jobs in 2007 on stage wanted to mention one more thing, and that was the iPhone. And then everything changed after the iPhone. It was not the first smartphone. It was not the first, internet connected phone, but ever since the iPhone, everything changed. Mobile internet using apps instead of software and browsers. And I think ChatGPT, the launch, is a moment that you can compare it with its impact. So I immediately started using it, and I thought, this is too good to be true. This is never going to last. There's going to be some government or God knows who that will pull the plug. I could feel that it was indistinguishable from magic, but I could also understand why a lot of people got very, very nervous about it. That's why my newsletter is called Chaos and Amazement. This type of technologies, they change everything, and then they cause both chaos and amazement. So I decided to use this new tool to write a complete new handbook about content marketing. So what I did was when you write a book, structure is everything. So I fed ChatGPT with the table of contents of my two previous books called Video Marketing Like a Pro and Digital Marketing Like a Pro. And then I asked it, what do you think a logical third book would be? And the answer was Content Marketing Like a Pro. And then it came out with a table of contents for that one. So the book started with ChatGPT. Of course, it wasn't written by ChatGPT. There are some things that I went to and fro. I also used other tools like Grammarly. I did a mix of tools basically. But then the very last chapter of Content Marketing Like a Pro is written by ChatGPT, and it is a dialogue between a very worried marketing professional and a chatbot about the future of content marketing. So it's the practice of me publishing handbooks, blogging, creating videos. I've turned into a content machine ever since these generative AI tools came out. And a handbook, for example, usually took me 6 months to create. The preparation, the structure, the writing itself, checking the spelling, the editing. And now it took me 3 weeks. So wow. That's a huge impact, I think.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we've had another crazy week with the announcements of OpenAI. I'm fascinated by the GPTs. I've been playing with the creation of GPTs. I have one that is a hyperthinking bot using data from hyperthinking to create inspiration. I've got a ZN bot, which is basically answering questions on what does it in there, and then I've got my Hindi teacher bot, which is giving me a sentence to practice every day. But you can start seeing how this is going to be really, really practical. And you talked about AI. That's why I was very interested in that area. My son, who's studying in the UK, he can now write essays where he just has to write the prompt that he used, and it's actually accepted. You can use AI in this. When you speak to young students about how to use AI, what is your recommendation to them? How do you think they need to use it intelligently to get the most out of it?
The market, the job market, expects them to be able to use these tools, so we need to prepare them for that. However, I compare it, so they have no sense of internet history. If you're 20 years old, you're not aware of the impact of the iPhone, Google search engine. But I compare it to when Wikipedia was launched, that a lot of professors were worried that a thesis or a paper would just be copy-paste from Wikipedia. So I show them that example to tell them, never copy-paste the output of any generative AI. It is basically the true skill set is being able to look at a text, to look at an image, to look at a video, and then decide whether it is good enough. So in a marketing context, for example, will this text convert? Will this web page text lead to higher conversions and more people registering for the event? So what makes a good text? What is it? It's not just about spell check and SEO optimize, so the whole thing. That is what a student needs to be able to see. Will this work? And very often what comes out of generative AI, even if you get really good, I call them AI whisperers, people who become really good at prompts. Yeah. I know a designer, for example, he's become a Mid-Journey whisperer, right? And he writes prompts that are pages long to get exactly what he needs. And of course, that is a skill set that is really useful. However, as a designer, the output is never the final result. And I think that's what we need to teach this generation. Yeah. Never consider the output the final result.
Yeah, and we're seeing this with our own team. We create this weekly newsletter where we have an AI kind of cover image, and it's kind of become, it's something we're really playing with. Now we're actually putting in a picture of somebody from the team, which has been kind of turned around by AI, and it's actually quite a sophisticated game. Now I think that this question about how people approach technology, AI, and communication is really critical. I'm actually having a workshop tomorrow with some young people, 20 plus, talking about how they need to adapt to this new environment. Now, I want to go to you, Jesus. You were saying something before we started about something about what is the challenge that you see for your students in relation to technology?
For me, so actually the challenge, and that's something that I'm following from what Clo was saying at the beginning. I must say, Clo, I was in Madrid actually teaching some days ago, and I normally in my lessons I use one of your chapters in your digital marketing like a pro, more than one chapter sometimes, but one in particular which is about the disruptive technologies and how actually there are plenty of them, how you can approach those ones. This is one of the cases, AI, for example, and it's normal that you have to adapt your book because it's true that there are plenty of channels and things that are coming. So this is part of the hyper shifting approach that we have also as then. No? So and one of the challenges that I have answering to your question, Phil, and I don't know, sharing with you, Clo, to see what you think, is that what I see is that the more I'm advancing on the time teaching to the students, so the earlier they, I mean, nearer to this time that they are born. So then they are more into the digital as totally natural. So in the digital environment, they embrace it because they're natural, born into that. But at the same time, I see that they kind of lose the track or the memory of where or why those things are there. I'm putting always the example of, for example, what happens in a website. You click on the logo and it goes to the homepage. It wasn't the case at the beginning when we were starting to do websites and all that. So there are standards that are there that they're taking for granted, but that they kind of they don't know why it is coming like this, or why this is the organization of a website and all those things. They don't have it in mind. Do you see that? Do you see that the as the time pass, the students are kind of taking things for granted, understanding the things much better, but then kind of losing the contact of or the track or the connection with how or why those things are coming?
Yes, definitely. For them, being connected is like breathing in oxygen. The internet was there when they were born, so obviously for them they are natives in that respect. I think it's a joke, but it's actually true. How do you know someone is really old? And the answer is if they still know what a 20.8K modem sounds like, and and you
And
too.
we all do.
Yeah, that's how you know you're old.
Oh, there, there.
And I think for the next generation, because that's of course super, it's going to get interesting. I notice that the interfaces in themselves, which for now is still mainly a smartphone, the smartphone is like the remote control for a lot of aspects of our lives. It's how we interact with objects, with databases, with other people in the world. So it's still a smartphone, and it's kind of glued to our hand right now, and the notifications and the feeds and the algorithms. And I think that's something I'm looking forward to, actually getting rid of that. And I'm seeing that a lot of the technology is now going towards interfaces that no longer need a screen or a keyboard or something physical. And
This is coming, actually.
Yeah, well, anything really. So the next step is we will free up our hands, and that is something I think that we can look forward to, because right now you can see that it's dangerous in traffic and people walking around with their smartphones. Plus, of course, when you're on a date with someone and this person is like constantly checking their smartphone, it's in the way. The screens are kind of put up between the person and the world sometimes. And that will now go away. The screens will go away. The keyboards will go away. What comes next, I think, will be speech and then gestures. I like how the vision. I think the new Apple Watch can have like gestures. Like you can have gestures like this as an interface with the connected devices around you. I like the idea. I like the idea of a world where we could use, like, I don't know, American Sign Language. To turn up the temperature in the room to talk to the connected devices in your house, for example. And I'm curious about what the downsides of that will be then. To my students, I tell them, so on the cynical side, I will always keep selling books because I need to come up with new versions because they're based on technology that changes. But also, I also tell everyone that they should spend 10% of their time experimenting with stuff. In my case, half a day a week, every Friday afternoon. I decide for the whole year what I will mess around with. So for this year, it was live streaming. I started using StreamYard, thanks to you guys. I think, Phil, you were the one who recommended StreamYard. I'm doing a live stream every Friday afternoon between 5 and 6 with a friend of mine in a studio. And then from this, we learn how to do live streaming. How do people react on multicast, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, etc. And we learn a lot from that. And now I'm deciding about what my 10% will be next year. And it will probably be creating long-form video content, probably something like this, like a 1-hour studio conversation, or me just sharing the contents of my weekly newsletter, something like that, and then cutting it up in short videos and then distributing these as Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, maybe even TikTok videos. I'm looking into AI tools that claim to automatically cut like 10 clips from a 1 hour video in English. That would save me a lot of time. I haven't tried it yet, but that's what my 10% will be. Cutting 10 short clips from a 1 hour video and do that every week. And then distribute those on LinkedIn, on Facebook, maybe even on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, so we're doing this actually, with this, but automation is still, you can't automate it quite yet, and we're playing with all the tools that we see. But again, every time you improve the process, then you can find a way to slightly automate a bit better.
Exactly.
What's really good now, we take the video, we take this conversation, we drop it in ChatGPT, we turn it into text, then we write the summary. Of course, you have to edit it, and then we cut the video into little clips that we then share across the channel. So, I think, with the speed of progress, it's going to get faster and faster. Now, I want to come back to your content point. Actually, to this, you said you wrote this, ChatGPT helped book on content marketing. For us, this has been a very interesting discussion, because a lot of our clients have been heavily invested in X, for example, because Twitter was the platform for EU politics and discussion. Everybody is very uncomfortable with the changes that Musk is constantly bringing to them, and this constant uncertainty. And what we've been saying is that you need to be multi-channel. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. That's the first thing. The second thing, and that's an idea that predates the dominance of social channels, is you should have your own web assets that you control, like a web page or a blog, like a newsletter, like the one you have. And then this approach called Posse, P-O-S-S-E, post once and syndicate everywhere, which I think is a very interesting idea. What is your view on where the content approach is moving? And I think that, regardless of technology, that it remains core. Content has to be good, relevant, and then it has to be distributed to the right people.
Yeah. There's this is a classic model called pay, don't earn media. And it kind of helps you make sense of all of the channels. The most important channels are the owned media, and they exclude social media because your Instagram account is not yours. It's owned by Meta, so you're allowed to publish things there. So a known blog, website, somewhere where you don't rely on an algorithm, a black box, some magic formula. You don't rely on that to reach your audience. So that's why I put this effort in this weekly newsletter. It's a lot of hard work, but I started publishing it every Saturday morning in June 2018, and never missed a week. So I'm kind of proud of that. And for me, I think that's my most important work, is the weekly newsletter, which is actually a mix of curated content, technology news, funny stuff, and my own blog posts. I've been blogging since 2004. And of course, the content and the format has evolved. But I feel it feels good to have a place on the internet that cannot all of a sudden disappear or get acquired by some millionaire who makes the type of decisions that ruin the experience for a lot of people. What's going on with Twitter actually breaks my heart, because when I talk about the channels where you distribute, where you're also present, where you distribute content and try to add value to the conversation, I always recommend people to limit it to 3, because you can't be active everywhere. For me, these 3, for audience reasons, were Facebook, specifically Facebook groups, who are still very active and interesting, LinkedIn, which is, I think, the most underestimated of these social media platforms, and Twitter, which was secretly my favorite social media platform. But I have a feeling that for the past year, I'm just clinging on to what used to be. Whenever I open up my feed today, it's actually populated by people who are, for different reasons, so desperate to get attention, that are willing to pay for it, and the result is very toxic. When I look at my feed, it's a mix of, and I'm probably going to insult a few people, but then again, there's a lot of insulting going on Twitter, so it is on brand. There's a lot of crypto scammers, incels, and cam girls. So that's not a comfortable environment for me to be in. And I've also noticed, because I would rather drop dead than to pay to get, more attention in the feed. It used to be the case that when I posted a tweet, I looked at the analytics, which I do in order to decide which ones of the tweets could be interesting for my newsletter. So that's why I looked at my analytics every week. Usually one tweet of mine would be seen by, let's say, around 1,000 people based on 30,000-ish subscribers. So I had an imaginary audience of 1,000 people. And then today, because I refuse to pay for the premium version, it's like 200 or 300, which is not just because of the algorithm, but also because a lot of people are leaving. It's just opening up the app. It's just, it makes you want to just scream or set something on fire or throw something through the room. It's not very uplifting. So the past month or so, I'm posting the same content on Twitter and on Blue Sky, which is one of the many Twitter alternatives. I've tried all the others, Mastodon, for example, as well. The others were actually struggling. They didn't get the network effect, which means that you need a critical mass of users before they kind of start to interact with each other in an interesting way. And for me, that never happened on Mastodon. It is happening now on Blue Sky. So it's becoming interesting right now. I'm building up an audience which overlaps heavily with my old Twitter audience. It's smaller. It's like 100 people, 180 people. But the interaction has a lot more value for me right now than it has on Twitter. So I'm slowly shifting from Twitter to Blue Sky.
Yeah, I think the approach has to be, to look at the different communities emerging from the new platforms. We're experimenting with pretty much all, but the main conversation is on LinkedIn, still on X. There's still quite a bit of conversation. We occasionally get a little discussion on Blue Sky or Mastodon, but it's. I think the reality is that we're in a moment of change, which is going to be quite intense for the coming 6 to 12 months at least. Today, the Commission announced that they were pausing all advertising on X, which is, I think, quite a significant move for Brussels. So I think this change will continue. We have 2 comments from Ivan saying hello, and from Daniel saying very good insights on how to use AI. I quite agree with Clo. So on this note, I want to move to the recommendations. So roll jingle.
You'll have to sing, Phil. There's no other way.
I will do that. So, Clo, what are your recommendations for our viewers today?
My recommendations are 2 books, and what interests me most. What interests me most is the
Clo, I can't see your screen. Suddenly it's black. So, can you see us? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Now we can see you.
Now we can see you. Yeah. I think you need to see. I think the shift of the camera might not have. Okay.
So there are 2 books. 2 books. The first one is a book by, among other people, Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis is originally, I think, Greek. But he's one of those millionaires who's trying to do interesting stuff with his millions. And the title is Exponential Organizations 2.0. So he got help from a number of other people. Ray Kurzweil might ring a bell with some of you. Because he's also a very prolific author. He's actually the one in one of his books that came up with the term technological singularity. And he's also the one who popularized the idea. of chaos and amazement. So Exponential Organizations 2.0 is, of course, the newer version of an earlier book. But what I like about it is that it is an optimistic view on the impact of technology, digital technology, on our daily lives. And the world needs that, because there's already a lot of fear-mongering. And of course, it's important that European organizations are having a good look at the impact of AI and the ethics of it. But it kind of fear paralyzes people. And if you're an entrepreneur, that doesn't really help you to know that there is like evil AI that will take your jobs. So if you want to get an optimistic look on the impact of digital technology on starting your own organization, Exponential Organizations 2.2 is a book that I recommend, because the main claim is that today's technology leads to more abundance. And it's tempting with all of these, armed conflicts going on in the world, and mental health issues. There's a lot of important issues going on that might make you depressed or lose all hope. But when you look at the actual quality of life of people in general, it is a lot higher than it was 50 or 100 years ago. And technology is actually a force for the good, even when you use it to start your own organization. And then there's a second book, because contrary to Jesus, who is an artist, I am more someone who would love to be one. So that I'm very frustrated in that part. So one of the people I look up to, very interesting guy, is called Rick Rubin. So Rick Rubin is, I think, most well known as a music producer. He's the guy who hasn't had a haircut or a shave in the past, I don't know, couple of decades. He lives on I think a tropical island somewhere. He's living the life, and he is like the most respected music producer, I think, still alive. And he wrote a book this year called The Creative Act, and you must read it. It's genius. I think this guy is a literal genius, but being able to talk about what it means to be an artist in such a creative way. Because, for example, he says that a good artist has antennas. So he uses a very simple metaphor. He says they have antennas that non-artist people don't have, and they sense what's going on in the world. And being an artist means that you sense what's going on in the world, and then you turn it into art, which I loved as a metaphor. It kind of made it very clear to me what it means to be a successful artist. Yeah, he is a legend. I think he's the guy who convinced Johnny Cash to record this amazing version of Nine Inch Nails song "Hurt," which was, nobody expected that, and the result is just so much more than just a cover. So excellent. Rick Rubin, he wrote a book. Go get it, read it. It's brilliant.
And everything, we're posting all these links in the comments, and of course people should also read your books. But now I want to talk to our artist, Jesus. So what are your recommendations, and what are your antennas telling you, Jesus?
Well, actually, I was waiting for the weekend to test what I will recommend. Now I have my questions, because I'm also thinking about reading the book. So the one I was proposing today is a game. So I'm going for the gamers. So there is the just launched on the VR, the video game of Assassin's Creed Nexus. So I was waiting for the weekend to try it. So for sure, I will see, because I have many things to do the weekend. Now also the book that you just proposed, Clo, so I will be busy the weekend. But my recommendation is that you can be an assassin in VR in such a nice, with a very good storytelling, because it's a nice book. A nice video game. So
okay, so I might be trying that one. My recommendation is same as ever from Morgan Housel. He wrote The Psychology of Money, which was a fantastic book in understanding where our understanding of money comes from and how you can approach it. So very, very different from the usual books. And this is basically asking the question, which Jeff Bezos once said, it's more interesting to find out what will be the same in 10 years than what will change, because you can build a business around those questions. So that's what he goes into. I just started reading it, but I'm kind of confident that he is a very interesting and insightful author. He's also got a podcast which he just started, and he's talking about some of these topics. So that's all we have time for. So nice to see you again, Clo, and great insights. We will be continuing this conversation online. Have a fantastic weekend and see you around. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.